UTIs or urinary tract infections affect about half of all the women in the world. Every year there are more than 300 million patients. At Innovative, we are developing world's most accurate, fastest and cost-effective point-of-care diagnostic solutions for urinary tract infections.
That's Srijan Jindal, co-founder and chief scientific officer at Innotive Diagnostics. They're using world-leading research to create solutions for real people's problems.
Idea was never to be an entrepreneur. The idea was to do amazing science. You know, as scientists, we're like going to do world-changing, complex science that will revolutionize everything. The university asked if I want to convert it into a company and go into this spin-out process through Innovate UK, and I was like, yes, please. I was very lucky to find two of the best co-founders I could ever find. Don't build the right product, build the right team. The team will build you the right product. I think the biggest struggle is endurance, because the highs can be very high when you get an award, when you get appreciation, when you get funding. Everyone's like, wow, this is so great, you're doing so brilliant. And the lows can be very low. When the science isn't working, the bank account is running low, you have to pay salaries. If you don't question quitting your job and quitting your startup at least twice a year, you're probably doing something wrong. I still can't believe someone like me can create a value and give back to society. I mean, that's dreams of a lifetime.
He drops golden insight on resilience for founders, as well as how to be an effective research entrepreneur for startups inside out listeners. So it's great to have you here today. Can you tell us what Innovative Diagnostics does?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. At Innovative, we are developing world's most accurate, fastest and cost-effective point-of-care diagnostic solutions for urinary tract infections. I know it sounds very complicated, but it's very easy. So UTIs or urinary tract infections affect about half of all the women in the world. Every year there are more than 300 million patients, and even the current standard care of diagnosis is you go to a GP or a surgery or a primary care, you give your urine sample, you get a random antibiotic, which they call broad spectrum antibiotic, and that goes to the lab, you go home, take that antibiotic. 50% of the times they are non-effective, and 2 days later, 3 days later, some days sometimes four, you get back the correct prescription, and then you go on the antibiotics, and then it cures. It's a 7 to 14-day procedure of treating UTI, which should be very easy. What we are doing is building a point-of-care solution. So with our product, you can go into the surgery, give the urine sample, the sample goes into the cartridge in the instrument. In 10 minutes, you get to know if you have the infection and what is causing the infection. In the next 50 minutes, so the total spectrum of 60 minutes, you get to know which antibiotic will be effective. So you're walking out of the GP surgery with correct prescription in the first time, curing your infection within, a couple of days, what could have taken 2 or 3 weeks. The worst thing about it, and the part that makes me really passionate, is the antimicrobial resistance front. So we know that antibiotics are depleting day in, day out. In fact, Alexander Fleming, when he gave his first Nobel lecture, he said, the day will come when the antibiotics will be ineffective. So he had made, before inventing the antibiotics, that they will be ineffective. And 80 years now, we have the same problem. The antibiotics are getting ineffective, and we are throwing them at people. Even in places like UK, you can go to a pharmacy and just get an antibiotic for a UTI. Crazy. UTIs are responsible for 25% of all community prescribed antibiotics. So a fourth of the antibiotics are just being thrown at people randomly to cure something. Isn't that crazy? And we talk about saving antibiotics. So that's what drives a lot of passion in me, just sort of saving the future. And, just one last fact I'll give you about the AMR. In COVID, the biggest year of COVID, there was 1.6 or 1.9 million people who died out of COVID. AMR, the same year, killed more than 3 million people.
Yeah, it's insane. Obviously, I think people can tell from that you're the person who's in charge of the science, right? It was chief scientific officer. So how did this all come about? Like, how did you, one, start working on this, but also from that scientific background then get into startups?
Idea was never to be an entrepreneur. The idea was to do amazing science. As scientists, we're like going to do world-changing, complex science that will revolutionize everything. And we were working on Alzheimer's, and we stumbled upon, I would say, and then through careful optimization, we found this method of growing bacteria really quickly. And we were like, wow, you're telling me that bacteria can grow in 20 minutes, which published reports say they take about 4 or 5 hours, over the standard technique says, you can take up to 12 hours to see them grow. If we can see that quickly, there has to be, a use for it in the real world. And that's where we started looking into UTIs. We did some clinical trials, and it was brilliant. We got 100% accuracy, very, very rare in science. And I still remember 2017 November, my supervisor in the PhD said, do you want to patent this and maybe in the future have a company? And I'm like, for what? For UTIs? It's like, yeah, like, to be absolutely honest, I don't really know what UTIs are. It's like, wow. So that's something that is affecting 200 million people. I'm not familiar with that. That is just because I'm coming from such a patriarchal society, as we know, where, discussing these things are still with all the taboo on the underline. I went home. I talked to some of my female friends. I did a lot of research. I still remember the next Monday I was in the lab. I was still slightly shaken. I was like, Doug, my supervisor at the time, you're telling me that we can solve something that is affecting millions, hundreds of millions of people. It's like, yeah, but you won't be able to talk about it. You won't be able to tell anyone what you're doing in your PhD. It's just like you're not doing science. You won't be able to explain anything. I'm like, yeah. But this is going to help millions of women out there. It's like, yeah, like, let's do it. 7 years now, we are very closer to the product, and I've never been happier that I embarked that journey. So that's where it all came out from. Obviously, finished my PhD, and then the university asked if I want to convert it into a company and go into this spin-out process through Innovate UK. And I was like, yes, please. As scientists, we want to make a change. We want to make an impact. And this was my opportunity to give back to the society that has given me so much.
No, that's really great to hear, because I think so many people, like you said, where they have that scientific background, and sometimes they can get in the lab and they're in the lab and they're at the lab, but they're not sure how to actually make that really affect real people, right? Yeah. And as part of that, you mentioned earlier how your professors introduced you to somebody to try and help get the business off the ground too. Yeah. Can you tell us about how you found that co-founder and how did you know it was the right person?
Absolutely. I mean, first thing to tell is don't build the right product, build the right team. The team will build you the right product. I was very lucky to find 2 of the best co-founders I could ever find. So it was Will Weinberg and Guy Reynolds. During my PhD viva, my external supervisor, Vanya Gant, he used to work closely with HCA hospitals and UCLH. And he had the connection to Guy, who was suggesting to, improve the diagnostics in his hospital lab. And the guy had just given up his CEO position for multiple cancer hospitals and, gone into helping startups to build with all the experience, backed by Will, who had also given up being a CEO of a different company and, building new technologies, bringing them to life. So Vanya introduced Will and Guy to me. They came to visit us in the labs in Liverpool where the technology started. And I think first meeting we clicked. The personalities matched, the sort of commitment, the drive, the enthusiasm was there. I could see that these guys are here for the product and they probably saw something useful. I mean, I still question, why would you select me? You had so many other options and you're such brilliant people, but there's clearly had some faith in the technology and what I was presenting. And I don't think I would be anywhere, or this company would be anywhere without them. So that's how we found the co-founders. And I would still say it was a lucky dip, but it's been a brilliant journey all throughout.
And talking about a journey there, so obviously since you met them, it's not, you've had like several years now working on the product, refining it, making it better. How has your motivations and your relationships to the product changed over time too?
Yeah, the only thing that hasn't changed since then has been my commitment, my drive to put the product on the market. I still can't believe someone like me can create a value and give back to society. I mean, that's dreams of a lifetime. So that has stayed same. Everything else has changed. So we started with a very different technology. We very early knew where to go and what to put out to make the correct product. So we completely pivoted on the technology, and there was faith in what I had as a capability. So I could bring that science back up with the new technology. The timelines are longer, the funding is more. Earlier, I'm pretty sure I was giving my 200% all the time in the world, working after hours. But after a few years, you realize that you need to add the maximum value rather than giving your maximum time and effort. So you shred those extra times and be really, really effective in what you're giving. Building the right team is a big part of it. A few months ago, me and Will realized that, it's important for me to be in innovation where I'm good, and managerial roles for just the rest of the company or the science team is probably something that can be handed over to someone else. And that process went very smoothly. So, things change as we go on, but I think if the drive is there, it continues. And, we're still looking for that sweet spot of putting the product out there.
You said that you're shocked that someone like you can do this, right?
Yeah.
What is it about that maybe your background you thought maybe you couldn't do this, or that these options weren't open to you?
I come from a very small town. I come from a very humble upbringing. Come from a town called Varanasi, Kashi, a very holy place. And I've seen my mom and dad struggle all the time. They have brought me up. There were times when they were crunched for money. There were times where we were crunched for, having the right amount of from food to, all the other things that is required for life, but they put me through it. They taught me very valuable lesson that even in the times of struggle, you need to be determined. You need to keep your values strong. You need to focus on what is important for you and never shy away, never do anything sort of wrong, all of those values. And when you look outside, you see people, millionaires, billionaires with this sort of exposure, and you feel I probably had none of those. They can probably make a lot of difference because they have so much with them to exhaust. So the opportunity that I have to give back to the society is just amazing. It's invaluable. And I look back and I'm like, wow, this has been a journey. And I've managed to come through, and, all through the backing of my parents and my colleagues and all the support structure around me. But that makes me feel very happy inside.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I think for some of the people listening today, maybe are from those backgrounds or from places where they did have struggles when they're younger, right? To see you and what you've been able to do and the impact you're able to make, I hope that's quite fulfilling for them too, right? Because they can say, okay, if you can do it, maybe they can do it too.
If they can take anything, I would say just don't leave your roots, stay true to your value, and keep faith in your struggle. Because struggle and failure is equity. If we come back to entrepreneurship, struggle and failure is an equity if you treat it like a lesson. So build on that, take from it, never be disheartened why you don't have something because other people have, because we always look up, we never look down. If you look down, even the most deprived resource person might have 2 arms, 2 legs, and that might be a dream for a lot of people. So you always have more than someone, and you'll always have less than some people. So keep true to yourself and deliver what is best for you. Rest, you leave it to the chance.
Hello. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I'm Amardeep Parmar, co-founder of BayHQ and the host of this show. For those of you who don't know, BayHQ is the community for high growth Asian heritage, founders and investors in the UK. Over 7,500 people have attended our events. 200 people have been through our impact programs. And obviously, there's been over 250 episodes of this podcast. If you want to join us and take part in the programs and come to the events, go to bayhq.com/join. We also just released our first ever book called Startups for Outsiders, which you can get on Amazon now, and the link is in the bio. Hope to see you soon at our event. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. And obviously, you've come through so many different hurdles and struggles along your journey. What's something that maybe surprised you about how difficult it was on this journey that you had to come through, and how did you get through that?
I think the biggest struggle is endurance, because the highs can be very high. When you get an award, when you get appreciation, when you get funding, everyone's like, wow, this is so great, you're doing so brilliant. And the lows can be very low. When the science isn't working, the bank account is running low, you have to pay salaries. You're like, why am I even here? Why am I even doing this? You see other friends and you see them working in big corporates and, earning big paychecks, going home at 5, and you're like, have I made the right decision? And it's the resilience and endurance to stick through those times that really push you. So those are, some of the biggest learnings for me. If you don't have that, don't do it. If you don't question quitting your job and quitting your startup at least twice a year, you're probably doing something wrong.
I think I've kind of been through this little period myself, right? Where initially when I started BHQ, part of it was out of grief as well, right? So there's a compulsion from like a traumatic experience, right? But as it gets further away from that, I do have to think, like, am I doing the right thing? Because like you said, like if I just went into the corporate world, I could probably live a pretty cushy lifestyle. So, but almost in a way that makes my resilience stronger, because it means that I'm choosing to do this. Before I was doing it because I felt like I had to, because it was what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, no, like I have these other options. Mm-hmm. I can do lots of things, but I'm choosing to still do this. And I know about your journey as well. Like now you do love to give back. You do love to like support other people in the future too. And for those people that are on the way up, right, who are maybe from a scientific background, who are looking at potentially going into startups and commercializing the technology, as a university spinner, what advice would you give them? Should they go down that route, or what things should they look out for?
I would probably say look inwards before you look outside. Think why you're doing this. What really drives you? If you're doing it for money, if you're doing it for fame, if you're doing to be cool, it's not worth it. You're not going to get any of those. Every single step, you'll look at a million people who have done much better in a much shorter time. You'll see companies which have gone from 0 to a billion in 3 months. And you're going to be like, why am I not doing that? He started at the same time as me. So what you're building, why is that important to you? And remember that you are the person who it will be the most important to for the entire journey of the company. You need to find the right people. Build the team before you build the product. The team will build the product. If you can't be friends with the team, you can't work with them. So choose the right people. Talent is overhyped. Qualities and abilities can be learned. Personalities cannot. They come from a lifetime of experience. And remember that this is something that will not give you money. So don't do it for that. But contentness, is that what you will get at the end of the journey? When you're 60 or when you're 70 and, in the later stages of the life, what will make you happy that you have done something? And true to that. You'll have few highs and lots of lows. Just remember that when you have lows, everyone faces that, and ideas are cheap. Cleverness is out there. What you have to do is build the endurance. That's the real currency. And the last thing I would say is we all, as talking about me personally, or sort of where I come from, scientists, we always want to change the world. We want to make it 0 to 100 in a second. It's not going to be there. The world's not ready for that. You have to make the smallest change. And when 5 years, 6 years, 2 years into your journey, you feel like, I haven't really made that change. This is not going to make that change. Remember, first time you hire a person, you've already changed the life of a family. You're providing them. That's enough to tap your back, and that's enough to push you to change other lives. You don't have to change the entire world. And if that gives you happiness, you're probably in it.
And like on the innovation side, right, too, is that you must be seeing so many different technologies, and being in this space, right, must be even just not even your own company, all the other stuff you're seeing too, right? And how have you felt like the community around you and like being part of that health tech community and that scientific community? Has that been something which has been a big driver of your growth, or is it something which you think that can be improved?
I think competition is the key for, pushing yourself to the limits. And I see outside, my God, people are doing some fantastic work. I could not even think about it. But that all those challenges, all those innovation just makes you, more passionate about what you're doing. It also gives you strength that the community is driving in the right space. They're moving towards the right goal of, improving people's life and giving them more comfort as we need. And yeah, just in general, I absolutely love the sort of innovation that is coming out. I see a lot of innovation, and sometimes, you always think like, oh my God, that person's going to beat me to it. And that sort of drive is like, right, I need to be faster. I need to be more efficient in what I'm doing. I need to make sure that every single step that I take is carefully planned and executed in the right way. So competition, new technologies, new innovations only can drive you. If it puts you down, you are probably a wrong person.
And with AI at the moment, right, how much does that affect your work? Does it make processes more efficient, or is it not really impacting you too much?
It is definitely helping us. I think because we are in a space where we are doing IVDs, diagnostics of UTIs, and then moving on to sepsis, it's a space where AI is still treated as an outsider. But just in terms of processes and doing analysis and building algorithms, so our algorithm team is working with AI, which really helps. You take this box which we don't understand, or well, at least I don't understand, and you put your data into it, and they're like, oh yeah, this is what you want you to get. This is how you get it. That is brilliant. So I think AI is helping us in some aspects. It's not radically changed how we do things and how we approach things, but it has definitely enabled us to be more efficient and get to results a bit quicker. And just in day-to-day, company operations, if I have to send, let's say, complex email or a rude email to someone, then I just go to AI. I'm like, I'm not that person. I'd probably be kind. So I'm like, yeah, can you please write an appropriate response for that? And it out. So, no, not that. Right. A little bit of edit. There you go. So I think while it's helping us in a daily life on the company basis, it's aiding us a little bit. It's not completely revolutionary yet. However, I do see the future landscape changing quite drastically. Diagnostics and AI will take out the manpower from the processes and increase things, hopefully increase the accuracy. Still fingers crossed on that. But yeah, that's where we stand. We stand in the age of AI.
Looking at the funding side too, right? So obviously AI is flooding the funding markets. And I know you talked about before how you're not too involved in the fundraising process, but you have to do the DD side, right? Yeah. How is it from that perspective of when you're being questioned by VCs or their experts, and obviously needing to, you need to show that what you're doing is strong, then they should invest in you, right? How does that process work for you?
So something has changed in the past few months. So obviously when you talk to regulators, you talk to likes of FDA, and, you talk about the internal processes, it can't be AI. It has to be sort of logical reasoning, because AI is still sort of quite frowned upon, or, it's less understood in sort of regulatory landscape. When you talk to investors, they love AI. So you have to be like, oh yeah, our X method has been pioneered, AI-enabled technology, and they're like, oh, AI. Yeah. So you could see that little glow in their eyes when you say the AI. So there's this little inclination towards that, and on the other side, you're like, oh, no AI, no, absolutely not. We are proper logic. Yes, no, this is the decision tree. So yeah, you have to navigate that space. And internally, we are doing both. We're using AI to build those decision trees, and then those decision trees are quite robust to then go to the regulatory. So, yeah, it's a really interesting environment. I do see AI getting a lot of funding, which is good.
You were saying about the team as well, right? And obviously you had quite a large team of scientists. How do you go about hiring people in that regard too? Because there's probably a different mindset to say hiring somebody in marketing or someone like that. Because you need a scientist who is not only good at science, but also has that commercial mind of how's my work going to help the company too?
So while hiring anyone in the company, as I said before, you have to look for the person. First thing is, do the personalities match? Is that an honest person? Do they really commit or, resonate with the values that you're going to add to the market? And you have to find a type of person that when they go out and someone's like, what are you doing? They don't say, I'm working in a startup as X. They say, we are developing this. They feel that. So that's the stage one. And then, on the scientific front, you're really looking, because you're looking at people, you're going to train them. You are developing a very specific technology. You're not going to find people who come with a background of that specific technology. So you need to find people who are adaptable to learning and who also have this drive that, we want to learn this new process and then act upon it and build upon it. So those are quite important. Again, as I said, you look for the minimal requirements, maximum personality, and the drive to learn and to stay on. We have been very, very lucky that in all the hirings that we've had, a couple of people had to leave because of their circumstances, but we had no one saying, oh, we're just going to switch the job, because it's a startup hopping culture. So our people that we've got have stayed, and that's another thing you want to look at. If they resonate with what you're going to put on the market, they're probably going to stay for the long run, and that builds a family rather than a team.
And you mentioned about learning, right? And obviously with the co-founding team and the different backgrounds you've got there, what do you think you've learned from them, and what do you think you've taught them?
What I've taught them is probably for them to answer. What I've learned from them is just few things about the industry, how you need to act, behave, professionalism, also how you need to manage few things. As someone who works alone as a scientist, you're very used to closing the room. Everything is in your head. You've got it lined up, but it's all in your head. It's like a room of a teenager. You can never find anything, but that person can find every single thing located. What I've learned from them is how to organize, manage, and create the right deliverables, how to see who are the stakeholders for every single conversation, how to deliver curated messages. Something as a scientist that I was really poor at was communicating. I could give results. I could tell you what to do in this front, but describing them according to a person's need was very difficult. So I think that is one of the biggest things that I've learned. How to answer or how to deliver the content in the right format, depending upon what the user or what the listener wants.
Another thing too, so you're not based in London, which we've got the data at the moment, right? So we've been doing this, we crunch the numbers. So 80% of Asian founders who got funding were based in London, which is higher than the UK average, right? Mm-hmm. How has that affected you not being in London? Do you feel like at times like, okay, we should be in London because that's where the VCs are, or has it actually been because you've been outside London, it's been more productive for you? How have you gone about that decision and whether to relocate? Because I think sometimes I see from other founders, they feel the pressure to move to London in order to grow.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a bit of a push-pull relationship. So we originally started in Liverpool, moved to Bath, and a couple of the reasons we moved to Bath was our co-founder was from Bath. We found a CTO who was also based in Bath, so it made sense. But we had looked around. We looked Birmingham, we looked London, we looked Bristol. London we didn't go because it was too expensive. And fortunately, the director of our company, he is based in London. So, we have that little London connection. And honestly, you've done your education from Bath, to live in that beautiful city and have that little peace of mind and have that free flowing while getting the money from London. It's invaluable. I would say if we were based in London, we might have had received more funding, but I think it has been a less clustered approach to work based in Bath, where, you don't have too much noise from all the other companies doing 50 different things. So it's been cutting off the noise a little bit as well while reducing the amount of money that comes in, but it's working for our favor right now.
It's also interesting, I think, we hear a lot of people going to SF, right? San Francisco, and they're trying to raise funding. Funding is easier there, what people say. But also, things are a lot more expensive in SF.
Yes.
And if, for example, you're based in London, you could raise more money potentially, but then your expenses would be much higher too.
Yeah.
So on balance, how do you think that kind of works out? It could actually be that you might raise more money in London, but your costs would be so much higher, you'd actually be better off in Bath.
Yeah, 100%. You'd spend more money, you'd raise more money, but somehow there's a bit of a relation that if you're based in London, people are happy to invest more because, they can see up front, you're like, it's a bit of an investor mindset, I would say. But as you said, it's going to be more expensive and you're going to have a lot of clutter around you. So it's much nicer, at least from my thought process, to work in a space which is, slightly zoned out and you can work more freely, have less raise, but then also spend less. So yeah, that's, I would say it really depends upon the person, how they want to approach this. But for us, it's been working well being in Bath.
So before we get to the quick fire questions, what we're going to look at is we're now saying to people 200 episodes later, they can come back on again, right? So that's about 2 years. So when I know you're friends with Nav Sauna, so he just came back on again after 2 years. In 2 years' time, and you're sitting here, what would you love to say that you've been able to achieve in those 2 years?
Create more products, add more value back to the community, and hopefully we are very, very close to putting that product out there. And the most important thing is today where I am, I'm quite content. I hope in 2 years' time, wherever I will be, I'll be quite content while have added back to the society.
Awesome. So quick fire question time now. So who are 3 Asians in Britain you think are doing incredible work and you'd love to shout them out?
On top of my head, I would say Sir Venki Ramakrishnan. He got a Nobel Prize in chemistry. He did amazing work on ribosomes. I mean, having a brain like that is fantastic. And, what he's done is quite groundbreaking. There's a surgeon called Dr. Shafi Ahmed. He was the one who pioneered live surgeries and virtual reality integration into surgeries. I mean, we're seeing more and more world drive towards that. And, the surgeries are getting more virtual reality integrated and live monitoring and all of that. So big shout out to him. And third to a very close person, Nav from Washing Machine Project. I was with him on probably 4 years ago on a Tata Varsity pitch, while, Washing Machine Project wasn't that big, and his humbleness stays exactly the same. His drive stays the same while he's now, been to quite a few places and done quite amazing things. So he's the one who really helps me straight through the value, and I can see that someone can be successful while being that very humble person.
Can't say enough good words about Nav. And if people listening today want to hear more about you, more about your story, and more about what you're building, where should they go to?
They can just approach me on LinkedIn. I'm always out there to connect with people, help anyone. Even if I'm quite busy in my schedule, I'll definitely find time to help you and talk to you. So please reach out. Please don't call me though. Reach out on LinkedIn. I'll definitely be there. And yeah, just keep on having the drive and doing amazing work.
And if the audience listening today could help you in some way, what could they do?
The only thing that I would say is lacking right now is being 5 years into a company, I feel, we are progressing from technology to development quite a lot, from science to development. I love being close to science. So if anyone wants any help on the scientific front and, wants any sort of advice or wants me to connect to amazing science and technologies out there that my experience or my abilities could be useful, I'd love for that connection, because I just love doing something new and innovation every single day. So yeah, that would be brilliant. Thank you very much.
So thanks so much for coming on, and it's been like really great to hear that passion come through the entire story, and also that drive to keep giving back, right, to keep true to your values. Have you got any final words before we wrap up?
Thanks a lot for having me here. It has been brilliant speaking to you and opening up about, multiple things, and also learning about what you're doing, which is fantastic. For anyone listening, final advice would be, I know we are in an AI world, and if you're learning, remember, speed is more important than precision. So while you're learning, focus on speed. While you're delivering, focus on the accuracy and how good you can do, and just believe in yourself and whatever makes you happy. Don't drive towards the success. Don't drive towards money, fame, or anything like that. Drive towards what makes you happy and what makes you content.